Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar with the topic AI and digital transformation in the UAE, driving business innovation. My name is Pascal. I'm the head of marketing here with the private office of Sheikh Saeed bin Ahmed Al Maktoum and the Saeed group, and I will be the host for today's session. At first, I'm pleased to introduce you to our guest speakers for this webinar. So today with us, we have two of our executive advisors on board, namely Mr. Bill Ahmed and Dr. Abdullah Zayoun. And we have also two of our strategic partners with us, the company Synerise, represented by Ms. Hawa Saeed and Mr. Michele Ronchi from our partner Datrix. I will leave it up to them to introduce them further during the session. So for the next hour, we will cover four key topics. Part one will cover the introduction to AI and demystification and the impact of AI, which will be presented by Mr. Bill. We will then move to part two, covered by Dr. Abdullah, and he will give us insights into what you need to get started, risk management, and compliance. And then we will hear two interesting AI use cases. The first use case will be shared by Ms. Hawa from our partner Synerise, and the second use case will be shared by Mr. Andrea from our partner Datrix. Last but not least, we will cover actionable steps and resources, followed by the Q&A session. So for this Q&A session, please feel free to use the Q&A chat in your Zoom account and write down your question. You may also comment on those questions, and we will cover them later. So without any further ado, let's dive into the first topic. And for that, I would like to give the word to our first panelist, Mr. Bill.
Thank you, Pascal. So hello, everyone. Just to very briefly introduce myself. So as Pascal mentioned, my name is Bill Ahmed. I'm Chief Technology and Product Officer for a company called Logic Era, which is a cloud services company based in Dubai, and I personally live in Abu Dhabi. So I'm going to kick off part one of this webinar around what is AI and demystifying the myths and implications around this. I'll start with some academia thinking and concepts around AI, which is always good to sort of set the scene and some context, but I'll bring it back to what it means practically from a business perspective. So it's always good to have definitions, and we have one here as well. So AI refers to the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as problem solving, learning, and decision making. Now, as I was putting this content together last night, I was really keen to start to share some new insights around the AI topic, because it's something that's being talked about by almost everyone. And here's something interesting to share with the group. The idea of AI actually goes back thousands of years, all the way back to ancient philosophers who were pondering the question of life and death. And this gave birth to inventions called automans, which are mechanical objects moved with human intervention. So think of the early versions of clocks and watches. That's an example of an automan. And the word actually is from ancient Greece, meaning acting on one's own will. So the idea of a machine being able to function on their own has a, quite a rich and long history. If we move to the next slide, please. So this brings up quite an interesting debate point, AI versus human consciousness. Some argue that AI can be capable of subjective experiences, while others believe machines are fundamentally incapable of having these experiences. So on one hand, human consciousness is quite a complex phenomenon that if we were to sort of define that, human consciousness is the subjective awareness of one's surroundings and experiences. Now, this allows us as humans to think and experience emotion. But despite decades of research on human consciousness, this is still a mystery. Scientists have still not sort of cracked the code with how that actually really works. And people that know me know that I'm quite a big movie geek. And, you know, one of my favorite movies, being a sci-fi person, was the 1987 RoboCop film, which, if you haven't seen it, it's about a guy who becomes part machine and part human. But if you put the AI lens on a film like that, you know, there are various scenes where RoboCop actually becomes aware of his surroundings and is experiencing emotion. Now, how far are we today from a real RoboCop? Well, if you were attending GITEX this year in Dubai, Dubai police unveiled at that conference that they will be launching their very own RoboCop, which is going to be a self-driving vehicle, which will have quite advanced camera systems that will detect suspicious behavior. So serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law are going to be key directives that you'll be seeing very soon in Dubai. We move to the next slide, please. So misconceptions of AI. Now, let me do some quick myth busting around this. So deep learning is a term that gets branded around a lot. And just to sort of give some more depth around that, deep learning is not AI. What is it? It uses large data sets and complex structures of algorithms which enable processing of unstructured data. So deep learning can learn very complex patterns from large amounts of data. And to improve the outcomes of what it is supposed to do is through lots of repetition on these large complex patterns and data. Deep learning can be seen as a type of machine learning, and it's a way for a system to gain knowledge. So this then takes me to machine learning. Machine learning is also not AI. Now, I've done a number of tech DDs on tech companies that claim to be AI. And once I pop open the hood, at best, they're a machine learning platform. Machine learning on its own, by itself, can't be intelligent because it lacks reasoning and logic. Machine learning doesn't interact with the environment. It's really all about patterns and performing predictions on data sets. It's definitely a branch of AI, but to say machine learning is completely AI is misleading. So like you see on the three circles on the right of this on this slide, you can see this almost as an equation where deep learning plus machine learning equals AI. And with AI coming more and more in everyone's lives, you know, there's been a key question in industry around, will it eliminate all human labor? The short answer is no. AI will create, in fact, a number of new jobs, especially in the disciplines of data. And I've also recently now seen a AI engineering role as well, which has popped up. So there's going to be very interesting new types of roles coming in this space. But like any innovation in our times, as we introduce better ways to do things, those better ways then are then replacing suboptimal tasks that can be done in a better way. So jobs that are repetitive in nature, that are low skilled with low wages, that will probably be impacted with AI. Move to the next slide, please. So we've listed some examples here, but I'm going to just pick on one to add some color. And I'm going to go for the drone one because I think it's the most interesting. So Microsoft have an AI lab, and they recently created something called AirSim. AirSim is a AI drone development platform that can use the camera technology from drones. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to develop a deep learning model around the environment. So the drone can start to learn things like buildings or trees, and then hopefully avoid them. And the other interesting things around this as well is that it can course correct with bad weather as well. So if you have a drone and there's a gust of wind, it will be able to course correct in real time so that it can follow the path that it needs to. So that this type of capability now, the drone starts to learn from a custom self-learning vision model, where the drone can then fly across various terrains and conditions without actually crashing. So that's an example of some of the cool things that are being done with AI. If you move to the next slide, please. Okay, so I'm now starting to wrap up my part one, and to sort of summarize this section. We're clearly seeing now that AI is no longer stuck in sci-fi movies. We are seeing in our everyday lives, like from personal recommendations from Amazon. I'm sure each of us have smart assistants like Alexa or Google Assist. And even some of the content that we watch in our TV or in our streaming apps, that content has either been put together or enhanced by AI. And we're also seeing how AI can really positively impact people's lives. So if you look at the medtech industry and the devices that are now available in the market, you can get a lot of data on your health that can help detect and prevent. And I'm a big user of these types of wearable technologies as well. So just to share with the group, I've got a glucose monitor injected in my right arm. I don't have diabetes, but it's a great piece of tech to help me stay on top of my metabolic health. So what it shows me is that every time what I eat in real time, I get to see what the glucose impact is in my body. So this device is starting to learn my eating patterns, which can be good and bad depending on what I'm eating. But it tells me now optimally when my body is fueled. So what's the best time of the day for me to do exercise? And this is just some of the amazing things that we're now entering in this sort of AI era. This is just the beginning, and we're literally just scratching the surface. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague and friend Abdullah, who will take you through to part 2 of this webinar.
Thank you so much, Bill. And hi, everyone. My name is Abdullah, and besides my role with the private office, I'm also the global head of AI and digital transformation at APCO Worldwide, which is a consulting firm based out of DC. So as Bill was actually diving into what is AI and what are the use cases and their impact, I'm going to take another turn in the conversation and tell you actually, what do you need to get started? Because this is something that most of the people actually, and most of the companies struggle with, is where to start. Okay, I want to test AI, I want to implement AI in my company, but where do I start? In addition, I'm going to focus also a bit more on things that needs to be taken into consideration so you can adopt AI safely from a risk management perspective and also compliant with the regulations and laws. As you know, there are plenty of countries now adopting regulations on AI. You have the EU AI Act, you have the executive order from President Biden last week, and so on and so forth. So these are things that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So if I move to the next slide, what do we need to get started? So the first thing that most of the people actually struggle with is, do I really have a use case for AI to start with? So does my business really need AI or no? And this is an exercise on its own. And normally you need a discovery phase to assess your business needs and identify if you actually need or you have use cases where AI can add value to you or no. This is, let's say, applies to all industries. It applies to everyone who wants to start with AI. It's not something that is, let's say, focused on certain industry or company. It applies to everyone. The second thing is we established that, let's assume you have a need for AI, you have a certain use cases that AI can solve. You need to actually build an appropriate AI strategy that aligns with your business goals. Now, for different sectors, for different companies, for different people, you might have different goals you want to achieve. For example, my goal would be, for example, to optimize my work, reduce my time, to solve problems quickly, and so on. Some other goals could be reducing cost, reducing the number of employees, and reducing the number of machines. So you have to first understand what is your overall business goal, and from there, make the AI strategy completely aligned with this goal. The third thing is you need to find a team that will actually be able to fulfill this strategy, implement this strategy for you. And there was a study published by EY, which is my previous employer, a few days ago. They did an assessment on companies who want to enter actually and do AI, and companies who actually have the right resources and the right trained people to actually do AI. So as I recall the numbers, there are, let's say, 70% or 80% of the companies from the list they've surveyed that they want to do AI, but only 17% or less are focusing on actually training their resources to use AI or finding the right resources to actually build the AI strategy. So the recommendation here is that you need to build a cross-functional team, having business, technology, front-end engineers, back-end engineers, AI engineers, DevOps engineers, to be able to support you on implementing your AI strategy. Number 4, of course, this team will help you evaluate what are the right tools, services, infrastructures, models that actually can help you achieve your business goal. And this is a very complicated choice nowadays, because as you see, every day or every week, there is a new announcement, a new tool, a new platform. Yesterday, OpenAI, they launched an upgrade to their ChatGPT, which destroyed all other LLM models available in the market in certain aspects. But also, they also killed a lot of the startups that were competing in the space. One example is that they reduced the cost, I think, by 3 times. They increased the speed by 2 times, and they increased the context size, which is the memory of the model or of the AI chatbot, by about 16 times, which is a huge advancement. This is why having the right team and the right people will help you evaluate the right tools. You have also other tools that are open source, like Llama 2 from Meta, Mistral from a company in France, and so on and so forth. Number 5, which is, from my perspective, the most important one, is to start small. Start with a small pilot project, focused on one department, focused on one business unit. Complete the pilot properly, measure the results, measure the risks, assess the outcomes, evaluate all the KPIs that you need to evaluate, to define success, and then refine your approach and start going bigger. And the last point, which is very important as well, is once you establish, let's say, the pilot project, you can start then scaling up pilots across different departments, or you can start scaling up the same pilot to roll it out to, let's say, to the whole organization. Now, as Bill said, let's say there are many, let's say, positive impacts of AI. But if AI is not adopted in the right way, following the right risk management and compliance regulations processes, it can actually deteriorate and destroy your business instead of, let's say, doing good to it. That's why we have here a couple of recommendations as well. The first one is, of course, make sure that the team that is working with you on building your AI model understands bias, understands fairness, understands transparency. These are things that might, let's say, make or break, so to say, an AI model. if your model is trained, for example, on biased data against a certain religion or a certain country or a certain race, you will have results of the outcome of the model that will actually be destroying your reputation, for example. The second thing is assess the regulations around you. And as I said, there are different regulations around the world now being launched. The UAE is working on its own regulation. The Ministry of AI has launched a draft of this with responsible AI principles they have. Europe has their own AI Act, the US, and so on. And these are things that you think might complicate your life while building a model, but at the end of the day, they are important for data privacy, data security, and so on. So these are things that you should definitely put at the base of your model. In terms of governance, security, and access controls, of course, this is something that you need to have not only on your AI model, but also across all your whole infrastructure. Because any infrastructure, whether AI or not, without a governance model and proper security and access controls is set for failure. Then once you have a proper model trained on the right data, you need to start validating the accuracy, precision, can it reproduce the right data, does it hallucinate, and so on and so forth. Number 5 would be to establish proper protocols to audit your systems. And when I say audit your systems, some people might say, but auditing an AI is like a black box and so on. This is to some extent true, but you can still, there are still methods to try to audit your AI system, but also audit your infrastructure where this AI is actually sitting on top of it. And the last thing is, from my perspective, is that you need to have a mitigation plan. Let's assume you built something amazing, you've done the governance model right, you followed the regulation right. You need a plan to address what happens, let's say, in the case where the AI actually creates bias or hallucinates, like ChatGPT now. We know it creates hallucinations. All LLMs, they do that. So you need a proper risk mitigation plan to be able to take care of this. So I will stop now from my side, and I will hand over to my colleague at Synerise.
Thank you, Bill. Abdullah, rather. Let me just see here if I can pull up my screen.
In the meantime, I just want to remind all attendees, please use the Q&A function if you have any questions, so we can answer them later.
Perfect. Thanks, Pascal. Thank you, Abdullah, as well as to Bill for setting up such a strong foundation on our discussion of AI today. It's definitely a buzzword, and it's being used by every aspect of our business. And I really like the fact that you highlighted the 17% of companies are actually, utilizing their resources to implement AI. So who am I? My name is Havar. I am with Synerise, and Synerise is essentially a cutting-edge AI-driven infrastructure that is essentially tailored for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting behavioral data. So we specifically look at behavioral data, and we essentially just leverage the power of AI as well as with machine learning to be able to transform raw behavioral data into actionable intelligence that we can then have our clients use to enable, the data-driven decisions that come from that intelligence. So there's a lot of work that is being done by our data scientist teams, our AI team, to really help clients to be able to, leverage the essence of the AI models built into the Synerise platform. So our 3 main solutions are essentially the Synerise platform, which is a all-in-one platform that basically offers the A to Z of everything and anything that you need to run for the clients that are within your websites, that are on your physical retail stores, that are, making any sort of transactions. So essentially it's a all-in-one service platform that allows you to view every single customer in real time. And it gives you access to real live data about customer transactions, their patterns, their behaviors. And it's something that, that's accessible to marketing teams, to individuals working on the platform to being able to see real live where the company sort of stands. Base model is something else that we've launched recently, which is a little bit more sophisticated, and it's actually used for more data scientists. The platform in itself comes with 200 built-in use cases that you can use, whereas with base model, it's more customized, specific, tailored use cases that you want to implement. So of course, we've got offices in Europe, Canada, Europe, US, and in Dubai as well. And our clients vary between banking and mostly retail at this point, but we do cover travel and so many other sort of sectors. When we're talking about AI, the first thing that I always look at is, there's so many use cases to discuss, and I didn't know which one to select specifically for today, but I went ahead with discussing predictive AI. So in simple terms, what is predictive AI? Essentially, it's the ability to forecast outcomes based on existing data. And that's right, we're able to use AI to be able to predict customer future actions as well as behaviors. Now, for a second, think about, don't think about yourself as, your professional roles as far as where you are within an organization, but think about yourselves as a consumer. You're a consumer purchasing something. Imagine the number of times, I know I'm definitely doing this a lot on a daily basis, where I have to open my email and I have to click unsubscribe. I open my text messages and I see a whole bunch of irrelevant marketing campaigns. I don't know how they get my details, and I constantly am blocking numbers. I go into on an app somewhere to buy something, and there's the most random offers, the most random product suggestions. There's the most random, campaigns that are being directed at me that have no personal value to me as a consumer, as Havar. So when we're talking about, our clients that are in retail, our clients that are in banking, in tourism, in travel, in healthcare, whatever it may be, your main important focus essentially is to understand your customers, to build loyalty, to reduce churn, as well as to be able to increase sales. So what that means for our customers is, if you're not able to go ahead and use the predictive AI models that give you all this data that you can actually go ahead and make accurate predictions about each customer's future events and actions and behaviors, then of course you're going to go ahead and spam. By the time you spam, you've lost the loyalty. You're definitely going to have churn in your customers, and you're not going to, meet the same sort of revenue targets that you may have had to begin with. So with Synerise, we use predictive algorithms, for our clients across industries in order to be able to build that loyalty and to, run specific AI campaigns, create specific customized automations that are all able to predict future, that all include the future predictiveness of each customer that you have. So when we're creating a campaign and doing an automation, we start by identifying a problem. With that, as I said, we have 200 use cases that you can select with, and you can actually go ahead and run a report on all the customers that you have that would be at risk, for example, of say, churning this month. You can see what customers you're about to lose. Most companies spend a lot of money on acquisition of customers, but they don't realize that saving customers is actually far more cost effective, and you're able to use specific campaigns that you can actually go ahead and build that loyalty. Where predictive AI also comes in within Synerise is, of course, the prediction of being able to define a customer's lifetime value. So how much will this customer spend? Why would you be sending unnecessary emails, text messages, campaigns, be creating multiple sort of just spamming sort of options, when you can classify your customers into categories of the amount that they're likely to spend, and you can go ahead and tailor, customize specific offerings to each customer. Again, when you're looking at launching a new product, you can go ahead and do a campaign just on, offering an Apple phone to somebody that has recently bought a Samsung. It doesn't make sense. We're constantly working with our clients as well as with our partners in being able to really understand that, it's sounds like rocket scientists when you're dealing with all this big data, but essentially platforms like Synerise really help you digest that information. They create visual reports that tell you exactly where your customers stand, what the likelihood is for them to potentially have a propensity to buy an item that looks like something else. So when you're creating this automation, you're not doing it like the old traditional ways, and you're actually be able to really just, create that loyalty within the customers. And those are the aspects of the Synerise platform that really truly help our customers by gaining the loyalty that they need rather than just spamming. When it comes to when it comes to the ability to, specify propensity. So propensity is something that is, you can again predict the likelihood of a purchase of a group of customers. So, when we talk about specific customers here, you have some clients that are living in, vast areas that are specifically villas, some that are highly just concrete jungles being in Dubai. So there are different offers that if you wanted to offer like a car wash, for example, we had one of this for our transport companies. You can put geolocations in as far as which customers are likely to go ahead and benefit from a car wash rather than, somebody who's living in a high rise, which is unlikely to have. So other things that you can actually also go ahead and implement is, being really, really specific in your product offering and being able to really just utilize the platform for, all the products that you have available, what needs to go first, where you're going to offer something to somebody where you're not just bombarding them. Now, a specific use case that I wanted to talk about is Żabka. So Żabka, of course, is, has been a client of Synerise for over 5 years. They have almost 6,700 stores, and it is the biggest grocery chain in the CEE, and they serve millions of customers daily. So they're using the Synerise platform, which is basically able to offer their customers more personalized services to gain customer loyalty, increase sales, as well as reducing churn. So when it comes to being able to incorporate all the different elements of what makes a successful retail strategy is really to being able to understand that you cannot just continuously bombard customers, because nowadays customers have more choice than they used to, and they actually have a lot more options with e-commerce platforms to purchase a lot more items from other competitors. So how do you go ahead and retain that loyalty is really by embedding different things within AI that you can actually leverage to increase that loyalty, to increase the sales, to reduce the churn, because the data is there for you. Now, what Abdullah had mentioned about having a strategy in place, we at Synerise do have, of course, a phenomenal CSI team, a customer success and implementation team that will help you with the specific use case selections that you can actually go ahead and implement. But we also work with a lot of different partners that basically are able to create that strategy for you. So if you're sort of like reluctant on how do I go ahead and, implement AI into my team because my tech team is very different and disconnected from my marketing team, well, Synerise is actually the perfect combination of having the marketing sort of mindset with the tech background that can actually go ahead and, have this perfect dance between the two, because that is the way of future marketing is. It's all about being able to leverage the technology, the AI, the specific algorithms that can actually go ahead and get you to where you need to go to. Now, when it comes to use case selections, as I said, we've got over 200 of them, so it was really hard for me to choose one today. And when it comes to strategy, you need to be able to come up with a specific strategy for yourself, because your customers are different and their needs are different, your products are different, the way you want to manage it is different. So it really does take, a little bit of, courage to start with. But once you have one or two people on your team, our training for the platform is quite easy in the sense that all the modules are there, all the use cases are there, and it's really easy to implement. So I think that people really should, steer away from this fear of AI and look at how it can actually impact your business, because of course predictive AI is already helping with climate change and being able to predict future sort of catastrophes. The same can be applied to your business, and so I think from that aspect, I really just want our customers to be able to have that consumer hat on and go, how would I like to be treated as a consumer, and what kind of promotions, offers, and messages do I want to receive from the brands that I find the most loyal. And I think with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions maybe outside the call if you have. So please do feel free to reach out to me. 10 minutes talking about this wasn't actually enough, but I hope that it's been some insights for you. And I think for now, I'm going to hand it over to Andrea.
Thank you very much. Just let me share the screen before starting my presentation. Good. So, good morning again, everybody, and thank you, Saeed Group, for hosting this event. Today we will talk about AI dedicated to the asset management context and how to reach optimal maintenance level. What does it mean to apply reinforcement learning techniques in a real operational context, and how to develop and scale up an AI project. I will tell you one of Datrix use case about how to manage capital spare parts in operation and maintenance contracts. And this is, in our opinion, a very nice example to show you how AI and data science techniques can help your organization in improving not only material processes, but also physical aspects relating to production and logistics. I am Andrea Ronchi, and I'm the team principal of Datrix and head of Datrix UAE. We are a leading Italian AI company publicly listed on the Euronext growth market. And I have the honor to guide a team of more than 140 professionals, nuclear engineers, computational chemists, biocomputing engineers, math engineers, and computer engineers, scientifically guided by Professor Enrico Zio, who is among the most influential scientists worldwide, winner of the Humboldt Prize, and listed among the 2% of most relevant scientists in STEM by Harvard ranking. We serve more than 300 happy customers across industry, from banking to oil and gas, healthcare, and manufacturing. But let's see one of our custom AI project developed. In today's use case, our customer was Baker Hughes, one of the world's largest oil field service company, who is providing products and services to oil well drilling, LNG plants, etc. Baker Hughes signed a 15-year contract with Oman LNG for the operation and maintenance of LNG turbines of several sites located in Oman. So here the object function was that they needed to reach, with our help and the application of our AI methodology, the optimization of a 15-year contract with less residual value of parts at the end of the contract, because, as you can imagine, after the contract, any residual value left is a loss of profit for the O&M operator. They needed to observe the service level agreement constraints, so they needed to guarantee the business continuity for their own customer, Oman LNG. And as side results, they needed to reduce the purchase of new spare parts, reduce the stocks, and reduce the logistic costs. So let me explain you a little bit of the context. I mean, I don't want to make you LNG plant expert with this 10 minutes talk, but just I want to just share the basics to understand the problem we needed to solve with our AI models. So in Oman, there are several LNG gas turbines, each of them made of several capital parts. Each capital parts need to be replaced after a fixed number of cycles. And when Baker Hughes remove the part, they must evaluate if the part is at the end of its life cycle. So if the residual useful life is 0, in that case, the part goes to the, maybe here is better, go to trash. If the part can be refurbished, they need to send it back to the Italian factory of Baker Hughes in Florence, where they have the factory and the central warehouse. So they refurbish the component and they stock it locally. Important note, in Oman, there is a local warehouse where to store the capital spare parts that must be replaced in the different turbines in order to guarantee the business continuity. So the $1 million question, literally, is how to plan the optimal flow of these spare parts. Do they need to buy new parts or do they need to refurbish the old ones? And when to do it? Do they send it in local warehouse first the newest part, or they send first the recycled ones with lower residual life? how big must be the optimal stock in Oman, etc., etc. Each of these questions is represented in the graph you see here on the screen, because the scientific issue, as pictured in this scheme, is about knowing that each decision brings a complicated tree of options that is simply impossible to manage without the help of AI and huge computational sources. Is like a sort of a super complicated chess match where we need to predict any possible scenario consequent to our initial move. And we need to keep updating this scenario by simulating all the options while the match goes on. So we created an AI software based on reinforcement learning techniques that simulate all the possible options and give the optimal recipe by putting every option at every decisional node in competition, and learning by proceeding with the simulation how to perform the best decision once we proceed in our graph. So the result is that the software gives to the planner of Baker Hughes the optimal recipe that can be updated in real time according to what is evolving at the plant level. The results, as you can see, have been at 10% of savings in costs during the operation and maintenance contract, and over 600,000 euros savings just for one of the several LNG sites of Oman LNG. Coming back to the same pattern that Abdullah described in the previous speech, we deployed this custom AI solution by working side by side with the customer to understand correctly the context. Then we developed a proof of concept, a POC, on a limited number of gas turbine fleet. And after a validation and the demonstration of the results of the POC, we then scaled up the AI solution, and we helped the customers in integrating this intelligence into their ERP systems. So, going to the conclusions, none of the present is probably running an LNG plant or is involved in operation and maintenance for oil and gas. But each of you is managing or having a role in managing processes whose complexity can be surely managed by applying different AI techniques and methodologies combined together. So look at Datrix like a translator that helps customers in adding a numeric approach to describe the process they want to streamline. And by applying AI, we can create descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive models to make a physical or an unmaterial process work more efficiently, using less resources and increasing the profitability.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for those great insights. We are coming to the last part of today's webinar, which are the actionable steps. They will be presented by Abdullah and Bill.
Bill, please kick it off. You're on mute.
I'm the first to fall into the unmute trap. So yeah, I mean, just to sort of kick it off, and I guess for people that have signed up for this to walk away with something tangible. I mean, like we said, defining the business problem is very key. Having that right use case. So I guess in terms of some guidance around that, it has to be material for your business. It needs to be something that that if you move the needle on, that it actually wins the hearts and minds of not only your internal stakeholders, but it can actually make a material difference to the market as well. So defining that use case and solving that the right business problem is going to be key. If we go down to once that's done, the data around solving that business problem then becomes absolutely critical. So where that data sits, which systems it lives in, are those systems be able to sort of break out that data? If you can get the data, is the data in a usable manner? Is it normalized? Is it consistent? Getting that right data foundation is absolutely key, because without that, you cannot do any of the things that we've discussed in this webinar. So no ML, no deep learning, no AI. So setting those foundations is absolutely key. With the foundations, then it naturally brings in your technology estate. So things like being on the cloud is a good thing, because a number of these AI tools, these machine learning tools, deep learning tools are very cloud friendly, making sure that you have that right cloud architecture, data architecture to transition into the AI world is, again, key part of the setting the right foundations.
Maybe I would add one point here to point number 4, Bill, sorry. Just because the architecture is very important. Amazon, I think Prime, they announced recently that they have changed their architecture, infrastructure, or architecture of their servers to fall back to an older methodology, so to say. Why? Because they have been using now microservices based architecture, but they moved to a monolithic based architecture. This is just an example to show you that even the largest and biggest companies in the world, sometimes they make decisions in the architecture that is not optimal. And this is why sense checking this beforehand and planning this appropriately can actually save you millions and millions of dollars beforehand. Sorry, Bill, please.
Yeah. No doubt, Amazon are one of the few companies in the world that have great data set up in the right way. So they have lots of ability to pivot in different ways. So again, sort of like, just looking down the list, and once those foundations are sort of set, that will then allow you then to overlay the right AI modeling, AI tooling, and the specific AI technologies, training models. Then again, with the foundations in place, you're in a very good space then to solve your business problem, that use case, by training the model to solve that problem. And the great thing is, and maybe Abdullah can build on what I'm saying, is that gone are the days where you need to train models with a significant amount of data sets. I mean, the technology now has moved considerably over the last even 12 months, where you can train models in sort of breakneck speed with not a crazy amount of data, and actually get up and running very quickly. I don't know, Abdullah, if you want to add on to that point.
I totally agree with you. I mean, it depends on your use case, but now you can train a model with just a few sentences, right? So with the things that OpenAI launched yesterday in their Dev Day, besides the new ChatGPT 4 updates and so on, they also launched a solution called GPTs, which is basically you can actually create your own ChatGPT model that is focused on yourself only. For example, the example that Sam Altman gave, I think, was about creating a GPT that is assessing the ideas of startups. So he just wrote a few sentences. What would he like this new GPT model to be an expert in? And there you go. Another partner company I work with, they created their own pricing GPT. So they taught a simple version of ChatGPT how to generate pricing based on their pricing models. And it's doing now this for them, for example. So it's very easy now to actually train your own model.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And going to the sort of point 7 and 8, the amount of testing and enhancement and iterations on the model then becomes, I guess, where the real magic happens. So, here, there's a company that I worked with, who specialize in supply chain finance, and their onboarding in supply chain finance was, above 85% accuracy. So you can do some amazing things once the sort of model is trained, where it is able then to take quite obscure data inputs and extract the necessary information and categorize them accordingly. So training models is a skill, and there is a period of time to improve it. But yes, once that model is able to self-learn and improve, then that's when the real benefits sort of kick in. Abdullah, on the part around ethics, I know that AI is very much there's a gray area around what is ethical, what is not, but there's a lot of debate around the industry of how AI should sort of manage that. And I know that that's an area also you have some good depth around. Do you want to say anything around that point?
Yeah, it's still actually a gray area now, even with large companies like OpenAI and so on. So they all of them, they're launching their ethical AI, let's say, initiatives. Some of them are even they can protect you and your company from legal actions if the AI does something wrong, or if the data is leaked. But the actual ethical standard around the AI systems is still something that needs exploration, because even if you train all of these models on your data, even if you train it not only from the simple way, but also from the fine-tuning and the complex method of training, it still sometimes can be jailbroken to actually go beyond its standards. And this is something that I've watched a nice talk between Mustafa Sulaiman and Noah Harari. I think it was on BBC. So it's like an hour-long discussion between them about these things. And they both agree to disagree, so to say, because both of them have different opinions on the impact of AI. But at the end, there was an understanding from both of them that there is still no real ethical standards when you're dealing with AI models. And Mustafa Sulaiman is a co-founder of DeepMind, so he's one of the leaders in this space, so to say. So why we advise, let's say, from an APCO perspective, for example, we advise our clients here on their policies, on their, let's say, training of the model, on their biases, on their, let's say, data cleanup before training, in a way that you can do as much as you can do, which is XYZ, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but you should always allow for a room of, let's say, of risk in these types of models.
I mean, just very briefly to shine a different light from an ethics perspective, and to share with the group. I just sort of wrapped up a project with a AI company that is quite a large player in the UAE education space, and from an end user perspective as well. I think we're going into uncharted territory in terms of how end users leverage AI tools. So, like, if you're a student and you are doing your project, you're doing your exam, whether you're sort of high school, college, or university, these are all now uncharted territory around how students could use tools like this, and what is that boundary of using these tools as a form of research, but then actually using these tools to do your whole course. So there's a lot of uncharted territories around this sort of ethics perspective, and especially from the end user experience. I think there's going to be, you know, there needs to be some good thinking around that as we move forward. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Right.
Yeah,
So,
I think this is here we already outlined on this during our discussions. Start small and focus on the value, and of course then scale step by step thoughtfully. And this is part of the stuff that we mentioned, and we focused on, like the example of Andrea, starting with a POC and then scaling it up. Of course, from the example I gave from the study of EY, training employees is very important, and many of the companies are just neglecting that at the moment. So from the research, I think there was only 17% of companies thinking about or putting up budgets for AI training for employees for 2024. Like the event that Bill suggested, like GITEX and so on, it's definitely recommended to participate in regional events and networking events, because this is where all the companies want to lay out all their strongest cards. From my experience also, don't get too impressed with what you see there, but it's normally a good way of seeing the art of the possible, even though some of it is just for showcase purposes.
the only thing, sorry, Abdullah, I'll let you finish your point.
Please, I finished. I was moving to the next point.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll say on this is that, and I'm starting to see this as well, going back to the end user, is that once you build these AI capabilities, especially if it's sort of external market facing, end users still tend to use it like Google search. And that really is quite frustrating, because the whole value of AI is what question you ask it and what context you provide it. And if you limit it to a Google search type question, then the playback or the answer will be very limited as well. So this is something to factor in as you go on your AI journey. There is going to be some training and learning so that you can ask it in the right way to get the maximum benefits and results.
Exactly, and this is exactly the prompt engineering skill that arose after these large language models went out to the public. And for example, we at APCO, we're running these prompt engineering trainings on a regular basis for our employees, advanced, medium, beginners, because this is the bread and butter for anyone who wants to use an AI model, so to say. Of course, you should also tap into government initiatives as part of this, because especially in the UAE, the government is supporting AI adoption on all levels. So you can definitely join one of the initiatives and get some support, even though from a consulting perspective and so on, it will be relatively very helpful. Some of the resources that we recommend, of course, are the recent generative AI guide that was launched by the Ministry of AI. It's a very good resource, a very good starting point for people who want to understand what is generative AI, what are the risks, what are the use cases, what is responsible AI, what is the UAE doing to define responsible AI and move this into certain regulations, and so to say. Of course, it's also interesting to read what other countries have done, like the UK or Europe or the US as well, just for you to understand how to actually approach this from this angle. And of course, this is something I do, which is I interact with a lot of thought leaders and influencers around the world, especially on LinkedIn, because you cannot follow all the pages, you cannot know all the information, but some people, it's their job to actually do that. And I follow quite some of these actually, and it's a very, very useful resource to get real-time updates on what's happening around in the market. Unless Bill, you want to say anything, I think we can wrap it up and move to the questions.
Yeah, now from my side, I'm good. So yeah, let's move to questions if there's any questions.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, everyone. So that would bring us to the end of today's webinar. just seeing the question, it seems like our guest speaker have answered everything so clearly that there are no questions, actually. But yes, we would like to thank, first of all, our guest speaker, Abdullah, Bill, Awa, Andrea, for sharing those great insights, super interesting. We would also like to thank all the attendees that took the time to join us today. For those who couldn't make it, or for those who want to rewatch the webinar, we will definitely upload these recording to website. We will inform you via email. Yeah, so from our side, thank you so much, everyone, again. And then we are already looking forward to the next webinar. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.